In the world of high-stakes politics and international justice, the truth often comes at a deadly cost. On one fateful night, George Thuo, a key witness in the ICC trial of the 2007 Kenyan post-election violence, was brutally silenced. Thuo had been preparing to testify in support of the innocence of prominent suspect Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, accused of orchestrating atrocities that scarred Kenya's political landscape. But before his crucial testimony could unfold, at The Hague, he was maliciously poisoned. The story that unfolds within these pages centers around a chilling theory. George Thuo was poisoned at Club Porkies, a popular hotspot where his life was tragically cut short. The question is not only how he died, but why someone would want to stop him from revealing the truth. Was it an act of desperation by those determined to prevent Uhuru Muigai's acquittal, or is it a part of a broader web of political conspiracies? George Thuo Njuguna was born on the 14th of February 1967. George was a bright boy, and in 1989, he joined Strathmore University where he acquired his certification in accounts. He joined the transport industry and would first start working for the Stagecoach International Company. He was stationed in Malawi before joining the Kenya Bus Service (KBS) in October 1998, serving as the managing director. While in the KBS in the year 2003, he drove the company into collapse by running it into debt and was finally dismissed as the managing director. With his gained experience through the transport sector, George opened up his own company, the City Hopper Limited, a public transport bus company which operates in Nairobi City to date. Though his business was thriving, George Thuo chose to go back to employment and got a job with the Trade-Setters Tires Limited as the managing director. Though, in the year 2006, he dropped the position and embarked on his political journey by beginning to prepare for vying for the Member of Parliament seat, Juja constituency, in the coming year 2007. He won via the PNU ticket, even after facing a heated opposition by William Kabogo, who was running with the NARC Kenya ticket. Sadly, the post-election violence in Kenya in 2007 was a profound disappointment for the newly elected political leaders. The violence erupted after the disputed presidential election results in December 2007, where the announcement of President Mwai Kibaki's victory was contested by his rival, Raila Odinga. This disagreement led to a widespread ethnic clashes, killings, displacements, and the destruction of property across the country, particularly the Rift Valley, Nyanza, and Western regions, leading to the death of 1,200 Kenyans and more than 350,000 people displaced from their homes. For many newly elected leaders, the violence was a bitter blow, both personally and politically. They had campaigned on promises of hope, progress, and national unity, yet the eruption of violence undermined their ideals and the political stability they hoped to bring. Rather than engaging in legislative work and advocating for change, they found themselves thrust into an atmosphere of fear, distrust, and ethnic division. The post-election violence in Kenya in 2007 not only deeply disappointed the newly elected leaders, but also led to accusations against several prominent figures who were suspected of funding and orchestrating the ethnic clashes. They included Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta, Industrialization Minister Henry Kosgei, then Education Minister President William Ruto, Cabinet Secretary Francis Muthaura, Radio Executive Joshua Arap Sang, and former Police Commissioner Mohammed Hussein Ali. These individuals, many of whom were high-ranking politicians and influential figures within the country's political establishment, became the focus of investigations by the International Criminal Court (ICC) in The Hague. Amid the violence, it was alleged that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and William Ruto had planned and funded the attacks against perceived ethnic groups. In order for peace restoration in the country, a power-sharing treaty was entered into, and Raila became the Prime Minister, where the country was ruled through the power-sharing treaty. This led to the Grand Coalition government. George Thuo, having won as the MP for Juja constituency, he was subsequently appointed as the government chief whip for the president's party, PNU. William Kabogo went ahead and petitioned in court challenging George Thuo's victory as the Member of Parliament, Juja constituency. 2 years in his MP seat. On the 16th of April 2010, George Thuo finally lost the seat after the court, through Justice Luka Kimaru, nullified his victory, saying that George Thuo was not validly elected owing to massive irregularities by the disbanded Electoral Commission of Kenya. The ballot boxes had been tampered with, and so was the tallying of the votes. He absolved the blame of George and directed the electoral body to pay the cost of the suit by petitioner William Kabogo. On Monday, 20th of September 2010, a by-election was held, and so George Thuo lost to William Kabogo. George Thuo finally withdrew from politics, but retaining a close tie with Mount Kenya political personnel. He continued to concentrate on his business full-time. However, no matter the distance he created between him and politics, his past would begin to haunt him. He received a call from the ICC, The Hague. Remember, he was to be a key witness to his close partner and ally, former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. He was to testify that the violence in Naivasha and Nakuru was only spontaneous, and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta had in no way orchestrated or fueled for such violence. But for Fatou Bensouda, she held evidence against Uhuru and Thuo, which stated that the two were attending private meetings where they were applying the illegal Mount Kenya sect alias Mungiki. They planned and executed attacks in some of the Kenyan's towns, such as Naivasha and Nakuru, according to the ICC documents. On the 27th of January 2008, Thuo had attended a meeting at one of the hotels owned by the Kenyatta family, that is the Blue Post in Thika. He was joined by 30 members of the Mungiki sect. In the meeting, they planned on how to execute vengeful attacks against the non-Kikuyu communities, both in Naivasha and Nakuru towns. The documents further accused George Thuo of being the liaison between the Mungiki sect and Uhuru Kenyatta, and was the one who channeled the payments from Uhuru. Additionally, they stated that George Thuo is the one who planned for the Mungiki members' transportation using the City Hopper buses, a company George owned. Furthermore, the document stated that George Thuo had promised the sect members 3 things, that is after the operations, as well as fighting for the PNU party. Number 1, he promised that their leader Maina Jenga would be released after. Number 2. The government would stop killing the members of the Mungiki sect. And number 3, they would be compensated handsomely. Besides the unaligned political life, Thuo's social life was candid. He was joyful and bubbly, a well-dedicated husband to his wife George Thuo, and a father to their 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. 13th November 2013. As well known, relationships are not always smooth. They sometimes face the test of time. On this day, their test of time came. Thuo had returned from India, and after landing at the Jomo Kenyatta airport, his wife Judy had failed to pick him up. He went home directly from the airport, and upon reaching home, Judy Thuo was not there either. Judy got home at 6:30 p.m., an hour after George. She explained that she had been held behind by traffic police because of overspeeding. The incident landed the couple in a very heated argument, but later reconciled, and on Saturday 16th, 2 days later, they would attend Nganga's wedding, who is George Thuo's younger brother. Throughout the event, Thuo seemed to be in perfect health, and after the event was over, he went back to his Thika home, accompanied by Judy, his other brother Ngugi, together with wife. They spent the night at Thuo's residence. On the 17th, the next day, a Sunday morning, they took breakfast together. Later, George Thuo and his wife Judy drove them, that is, his brother Ngugi and his wife, to a nearest restaurant owned by a friend, where they enjoyed steaks. The newly-wed couple later joined them, where they enjoyed the afternoon together. Later, they drove in 2 vehicles to Earth River, where Nganga wanted to show them a house he and his newly wedded wife had recently bought. They viewed the property, and later, George, Judy, Nganga, and the wife drove back to Thika. George Thuo was a great fan of the Formula One, a high-level international auto racing competition that is considered the pinnacle of motor sport. So, there is no way he was going to miss such a chance. And at around 6:30 p.m., he called the owner of the club Porkies, Samuel Wainaina. George made a reservation. He went home, had a quick change, and headed to Club Porkies. At around 7 p.m., his friends had begun to arrive at Porkies. Samuel Courier, the hype man at the club, together with the club's manager Andrew Kamau, arrived first. They took one table and later served with drinks as requested by a bartender by the name Esther. They were later joined by George Thuo's former campaign manager while he was vying for the Member of Parliament seat, Christopher Lumba. At around 8 p.m., Thuo himself would arrive, and he joined the 3 men at their table. Thuo requested the same bartender Esther to serve him with 2 Tusker Light beers. The lady served Thuo with the drinks. She opened the bottles as Thuo watched. Moments later, the owner to the club, Samuel Wainaina, alias Sheikh, would arrive. He joined the same table, and so the 5 men sat together. 30 minutes into the fun, that is 8:30, Thuo called his wife Judy, keeping her posted about his progress at the club. From that point, 30 more minutes passed and another guest arrives, Vanessa Watahi, alias Atlanta. During her statement at the court, Vanessa stated that she was coming from an event from Zimmerman when she realized that she needed some change. Most shops had been closed in the area, and so paying for her fare with 1,000 Kenyan shillings was only going to land her into an argument with the matatu conductor. Out of options, she opted to ask for change at the club Porkies, and upon entry, she saw George Thuo seated with other men, that is Korea, Andrew, Lumba, and Sheikh. She went over to the counter, bought a bottle of beer for George Thuo, which was opened at the counter by a bartender called Phyllis Wanjiko. Vanessa personally took the beer over to George Thuo. They shared a hug and exchanged pleasantries. Shortly, she left the club. Only 15 minutes passed after Vanessa had gone before George Thuo started complaining of feeling overly hot. He wanted to remove the vest he wore inside of his shirt to limit the heat. Sheikh walked him over to his office, and from there he removed the vest. In that process, he called Judy, his wife, informing her that he was feeling too hot. Moments later, he walked to his car at the parking lot, wanting to keep the vest there. He walked back to the club and sat again with his friends. From there, he would collapse only 10 minutes later. Christopher Lumba quickly called Judy. He informed her of the situation, and the wife advised him to take Thuo to Aga Khan Hospital. At this time, Thuo is non-responsive, showing that he needed immediate medical attention. Aga Khan Hospital was too far, and so they opted to take him to Thika Nursing Home Hospital, where he would receive first aid. It was only a 4-minute drive. Thuo was received there, and the doctor started to resuscitate him. His brother Ngogi came over to the hospital together with a family doctor, and after the process was futile, the team summoned for an ambulance to have him moved to Aga Khan Hospital. But sadly, George Thuo was pronounced dead upon arrival at the Aga Khan Hospital. His passing was a shock to the family, since he was in good health, though he suffered from hypertension, which was already well managed. To the family, this felt like crime, and so they wanted some answers. They immediately informed the DCI. The following day of 18th November 2013, the DCI went over to Club Porkies in an effort to piece together any details that would help in creating some sort of conclusion. Unfortunately, the club did not have any CCTV that would have aided in capturing the events that took place. Additionally, the regular cleaning had been done, therefore the traces of evidence that might have been left were already cleared from the scene. Doctors Peter Ndegwa and Andrew Gashie would, however, conduct an autopsy on Thuo's body at the Lee Funeral Home. The reports indicated that Thuo's fatal death had been caused by stomach and intestinal bleeding as a result of poisoning. Biosamples were extracted from his body and sent over to Lancet Lab, South Africa, for further testing. In addition to that, the vest he wore was sent over to the government chemist in Nairobi for further testing, and as they waited for the results, Thuo would be laid to rest on the 22nd of November in his Thika home. His send-off was attended by prominent people, mostly politicians, including former President Uhuru Kenyatta and the First Lady Margaret Kenyatta. Towards the end of December 2013, the results of the biotesting sample came out. The reports indicated that there were traces of poison in his liver, kidney, and the heart. The traces of the same poison came out present also in the vest he wore the night of his demise. To be specific, the poison contained Lambda-cyhalothrin, a synthetic pyrethrid that disrupts the nervous system of insects and equally fatal to humans. The chemical has a slightly sweet smell, which would not easily be detected by humans, showing that everything that happened to George was premeditated murder. This gave the detectives a conclusion that his death was murder. On that January 2014, 6 weeks since his death, 6 suspects would be arrested, including Christopher Lumumba, Andrew Karanja, Samuel Kuria, Samuel Wainaina alias Sheikh, Esther the bartender, and Vanessa Watahi alias Atlanta. They were the very people Thuo had closely interacted with right before he died. 10 years into the case, the 6 suspects finally received their sentences. However, there were no traces of the lethal poison collected at the club, Porkies, because the joint had been cleaned, a step that led to the clearing of all the evidence that could have been present. Additionally, none of the suspects was found in possession of the lethal poison. During the hearing, the 6 defendants' lawyer, Umbeta Cliff, had tried to raise arguments that George Thuo could have consumed the poison elsewhere before coming to Porkies. However, he had no supporting evidence to his arguments, and so the judge overruled. On top of that, the poison in specific is known to act within a few minutes, and so there is no way George Thuo could have consumed the poison elsewhere, depending on how fast its reaction was. The lawyer had also tried to argue that since George had gotten into a quarrel with his wife Judy previously after his return from India, maybe she could have been involved with his death. Citing their volatile marriage and attempting to shift the suspicion on his wife Judy. However, Judy came to her defense, admitting that they had gone through a normal couple's disagreement but were in very good terms by the time of his death, a statement that was highly supported by Ngugi Thuo's brother. On the 27th of July 2014, still with the case ongoing, another well-renowned businessman by the name Bidan Njoroge, only 38 years of age, collapsed and died at the same joint, Club Porkies. The businessman had started to complain of feeling hot, and so he walked out of the club, called a taxi in need of going to the hospital. However, he collapsed outside the club even before the taxi could arrive. Well-wishers rushed him to Thika Level 4 hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Dear viewer, for clarity reasons, it's good to inform you that Club Porkies at the time had a reputation of having men's drinks spiked by women in order to make them more vulnerable. In this case, it was alleged that Mr. Biden's drink had probably been spiked, and since he used to suffer from serious heart complications, his body crashed under the effect. Furthermore, the police looked into his case and learned that there was no connection between George Thuo's death and his own. Sheikh, the owner to the club, highlighted in court that Thuo had expressed his worry concerning the case going on at The Hague, and he wondered what would become of him after the case was over. On the 19th of April 2024, the 6 suspects finally faced their fate. The Kenyan High Court found them guilty for the death of George Thuo at the Club Porkies. Judge Rosalind Correo highlighted that George Thuo had caught Sheikh and Christopher Lumumba, informing them that he was coming, and so the group had enough time to prepare for the killing. Samuel Kuria and Andrew Karanja ensured that they sat on the same table with George in order to see to it that the plan was unfolding just as it had been laid. She added that the 4 men, Kuria, Karanja, Lumumba, and Sheikh, did not at any moment leave Thuo's table, a way of making sure that they tampered with his drink. For Esther, She too may have poisoned the drink during the service, and so was Vanessa Watahi, who had bought George a beer and brought it over to him after it was opened at the counter. Having Vanessa as a frequenter at the club, she could have gotten the change easily without having to buy a beer. Employees knew her very well. The judge further questioned Watahi's motive for buying and opening a beer at the counter and ensuring that she personally served him. On the 25th June 2024, 10 years since George Thuo's death, the 6 suspects were sentenced to 15 years in prison each. The prosecution team did not manage to prove the motive for Thuo's murder. However, it was alleged that he died among the other witnesses who were involved in the case for the Ocampo 6. The case against the Ocampo 6 had been concluded between 2014 and 2015, and all the suspects acquitted. But the big question remains, was there a bigger fish in the matter? Could the 6 killers be working for a much more bigger individual who wanted to ensure that Uhuru Kenyatta was never acquitted? What do you think? Let me know in the comments section. And in the meantime, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.